what is the best example that we can go through specifically that really hits these criteria well, and we can say, yes, this is probably an imitation?
The one that I'm most impressed with is the similarities in Mark between the death of Jesus and his burial and the death of Hector and his burial at the end of the Iliad. In both cases, you have a young man who suffers a violent death. In both cases, there are three women who watch from a distance and are involved in mourning for him and in the burial. In both cases, there's a gloating over the corpse of the dead young man. It's Achilles who gloats over having killed Hector, and it's the centurion who says, "Oh, sure, this mortal was a son of a god." Then the executioner has kept the body such that an old man needs to go and rescue the corpse. In the tradition, Jesus's father's name is Joseph. But it's not Joseph of Nazareth who buries Jesus, but it's Joseph of Arimathea. And in Greek, Arimathea means excellent discipleship. It's not Mary of Nazareth, who's one of the women who's at the tomb. It's two other women who are named Mary. It's not Peter who carries Jesus's cross, but his namesake, Simon of Cyrene. So these are all symbolic names that encourage the reader to be more faithful to Jesus than his own family was and his disciples were. The death of Hector leads to the fall of a city. It leads to the fall of Troy. For Mark, the death of Jesus anticipates the destruction of Jerusalem. That's why the veil of the temple is rent in two. So when one starts to pile up these parallels, it's not simply looking at the sky and seeing patterns that people want to see. It's actually the clouds themselves are shouting out that this is the picture that the authors are portraying.
Number 3, Odysseus immediately meets the Cyclops Polyphemus in a cave. Jesus immediately meets a man possessed by demons coming out of a tomb or a cave-like structure. Number four, the Cyclops asks Odysseus his name. Jesus asks the demon-possessed man his name. Number 5, Odysseus says his name is nobody or no man. The man tells Jesus his name is Legion, which means thousands of men. Number 6, Odysseus blinds the Cyclops, thus defeating him. Jesus sends the demons from the man, thus defeating them. Odysseus and his remaining men escape by riding on the underside of sheep. The demons escape the man by riding inside of pigs, both domestic animals. Number 8, Odysseus and his men return to the ship. Jesus returns to the ship. Odysseus calls back to the shore and taunts the Cyclops, declaring himself king. Jesus calls back to the shore but does not reveal he is king. Tell me what you think of this one, the woman washing the hero's feet analogy, the Odyssey versus Mark. In the Odyssey, a woman, Euryclea, meets a stranger, Odysseus. In Mark, a woman meets a stranger, Jesus. Number 2, Odysseus is recognized by the woman as someone worthy. Jesus is recognized by the woman as someone worthy. Liquid is spilled in the Odyssey. A water bowl is tipped over. Liquid is spilled in Mark. The jar is broken. Euryclea anoints Odysseus. The woman anoints Jesus. And then immediately the discussion shifts to Odysseus' enemies, the suitors and the unfaithful servants. And in Mark, the discussion shifts immediately to Jesus' betrayal or Judas.
Well, let me add one more piece to it that I think for me is quite remarkable. The name Euryclea means renowned far and wide. And what it said in Mark is what this woman has done will be remembered wherever the gospel is preached. So she has Euryclea. She has renowned far and wide. But the other is that if one adds the Gospel of Luke to this, the woman in the Odyssey, the Euryclea, recognizes Odysseus by the wound on his leg. When Luke has his story, he says that Jesus reveals who he is by exposing his hands and his feet.
Oh.
So it says, he uses exactly the same words in Greek. It is I, ego eimi.
I was, Cam and I both actually were talking to a pastor just the other day. I'll leave him nameless. He's probably watching. And he was making the comment that he didn't think the New Testament authors borrowed from Greek texts, or, they borrowed from the Old Testament, but that makes sense because God authored the whole Bible. So that makes sense. And then I brought up this to him, and it was the sons of thunder in Mark.
That's wonderful. The Dioscuri, Castor and Pollux, or Polydeuces in Greek, had a single name. They are the Dioscuri. That is, they are the young boys or sons of Zeus. They were famous sailors. They had one divine parent. That is, Polydeuces was the son of Zeus and therefore immortal. The Castor was the son of a mortal. So when Castor dies, Polydeuces is really upset. And he's out of love for his brother. He said, he made a deal with Zeus, allow us to live on alternate days so that I'll die on alternate days, and then Castor will come back to life, and then on the following day, I'll come back to life and Castor will die. So they shared a single immortality. When they're depicted in ancient art, they both are divinized. And you can see, and on either side often of a seated deity. So when they ask to sit on Jesus's right and left hand, they apparently don't care which one is on which side. So by calling them sons of thunder, you're identifying the Dioscuri, who are sons of Zeus, who is, of course, the Greek god of thunder. And they're sailors, and they speak in unison occasionally. These are really quite striking similarities in my view.
A lot of people can't seem to imagine the gospel authors as creative forces. And I think part of it comes from a desire to see these texts as being, faithful to real events that occurred, just effectively to beef up the historicity of the text. And what would you say to those people who just can't see the authors as being these creative forces?
Well, again, I would ask them to explain these similarities. I just don't think they can be easily dismissed. But the other is that I think I would give an analogy of religion and music, that we need to understand the creation of these texts aesthetically as works of art, and to appreciate them as such, and to realize that they are human products, but they're human products that have ethics or commitments or values that we continue to identify with. Put another way, if one says that the gospel authors are interested in being historians, it excuses them of any moral responsibility for the narratives they're creating. If we say they're artists, we, I think, exalt them in saying that they have these values that we can continue to cherish. It could be nonviolence, it could be care for the poor, it could be compassion, it could be affirmation of life. There are all kinds of ways to understand it. I think to read the Gospels as history is tragically to misrepresent them.